All right, all right. We'll call it in, but we'll do a debate. We'll do a debate in the weeks ahead.
You've already lost.
Okay, okay. Anyway, guys. I mean, I put Greens last on my ballot. I'm a more sort of moderate Labor voter, so I put Labor there, but I put Greens last. I don't want there to be a teal late Green coalition. I don't want that to happen.
Did you vote Labor first?
So yeah, I did. Look, I'm a moderate old time Labor voter. You know, healthcare,
But
education,
do you
stuff like
think the
that.
Labor
That
Party
doesn't mean I
now is
necessarily.
moderate? Do you think the
No,
Labor
I don't.
Party?
I don't. I'm like the vanguard of opposition inside the party, right? Like I want them to take a different approach. I want them to follow the Danish Labour Party and decrease migration. I want them to, crack down on crime. I think they should be anti-woke. That's my thinking. I know that they haven't done that, and
So
it's
why would you
sad for me
vote
because
for him? Why would you vote for him?
I'm at the end of the day, you have to have somebody, right, who's kind of like a more. I mean, would you prefer like the Labor Party be filled entirely with communists, or would you prefer that there be some people in the Labor Party who
No, but
have
there's two
more
different
reasonable
things. No,
views?
no. I support you
Yeah,
having.
I mean,
I
I'm there,
support
right?
you. I support you having a membership and trying to change it from the inside.
Yeah.
But rocking up at that polling booth where you're giving the power to the people that you personally don't think are good for the country, why would you do that?
Look. I don't think Dutton was going to do better though. If you look at Dutton, he wasn't really talking about properly decreasing migration. He was going out there saying that he was going to be more pro-China than the Labor Party. He was saying we really want to have a good relationship with China. So look, I was disappointed in both parties.
Do you
I thought
truly
I thought
believe that the Liberal Party would be more friendly with China than the Labor Party?
Dutton was out there. He went to one of those. He went to one of those events, right? Where he went to one of those events where they're selling. He said he was going to bring back the kind of sell the golden visa to Chinese investors. Like people will be able to buy citizenship sort of for like a high price. He was talking about that at one of these
Let me
events.
let,
He
Sure, he's going to sell high-priced visas to a very small group of Chinese. Is still better, I would argue, than Labor, who's just going to import them for the votes.
listen. I'm somebody who's trying to say I'm an old time Labor voter, and I think Labor needs to change its migration policy. It's ultimately going to destroy the Labor government if they don't change that. So look, my actual views on a lot of these issues are more conservative, and I'm trying to say to other people on the left, listen, you got to pull yourselves back from the brink. You have to abandon this woke stuff. You have to abandon open borders migration because it will ultimately destroy the left like it did in America.
Why didn't
And
you?
and
Why didn't
so
you
I'm
vote
trying
One
to be.
Nation? Why didn't you vote One Nation? Because they.
Because I'm not a One Nation voter, Avi. I'm
No, no,
I'm I'm an old time principled Labor
but
anti woke
but
voter, and
so
I'm
many
trying to
of the
tell
Then
old
why
time
not vote
principal
together?
voters moved to One Nation. That's what's happened.
I'm trying to tell the other people on the left. I'm trying to be a principled voice of reason. I'm as a moderate person say, listen, I will vote for the left, but you have to change your policies on migration. You have to change your policies
But they're
on
not
crime and
going to change it if you keep voting for them, Drew. If you keep giving them the
listen.
free pass. Do you know what's interesting is that in Caulfield and in Macnamara, which is going to be a really
Yeah,
cool seat to watch tonight, is
yeah, it will be interesting.
and I want to see how this plays out because it's been a massive argument in the Jewish community. Labor has
Yeah,
always gotten the vote just like you are now,
yeah,
for
yeah.
free, no strings attached. This year, most Jews could not bring themselves to vote for Labor, but there was still a fight within the Jewish community saying we need.
Look,
So there was a group saying we need to vote for Labor because if not, the Greens are going to take the seat, and so we've got to protect it from the Greens. So we're going to vote for
yeah.
Labor, and then everyone else was voting Liberal. People were asking me, "What would you do?" I said, "You know what? What's the difference between the Greens having it or Josh Burns? Josh Burns has, besides the fact that he's literally sleeping with the pro-Palestinian activists, but besides for that, what's the difference if he has no pull in the Labor Party at all? What's the point? Give it to the Greens because then the Labor Party will know for next time if they actually want to win that winnable seat back, they need to change. And it's people like you, unfortunately, for the Labor Party. I get what you're saying. You need to hold them accountable. They need to feel their primary vote crash. Do
Okay,
better,
okay.
Drew.
Look. I actually agree with you that the Labor Party has been really bad on anti-Semitism. I think it is a really bad thing. And look, I'm not going to have any credibility if I'm voting One Nation, am I? I'm not going to have any credibility to other people on the left. I'm trying to say, listen, I'm still somebody who's old time rusted on, but if they keep going down this path, I'm being honest here. Like my policies are diverging from them, and if they keep going down this path, I think it will be a disaster. And I'm trying to tell them, bring yourselves back from the brink. So
Please
look, I
text
think
me. I get you want everyone to know you're consistent, you've got integrity and all that. Just text me after that you voted One Nation to make me feel
no,
better.
no, 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 no,
I
no.
actually think that it shows more integrity if you vote on the policy and not the party. You're not tribal. Like if you do believe the policy is the problem, I get being a member to change it from the inside. That's what I said before. Because you want to change the policy, you want to bring
I
them
want to
back.
try to change it from the inside.
I
I do
get
want to try
that,
to change it from the
but it
inside, but
doesn't help to give him the free. What do you think, Joel?
you see, like, because you see, Avi, like my friends were like Kimberly Kitching, for example, or Michael Danby, those sorts of like old time Labor voters who were very much against. I mean, they were the ones who were sort of. Kimberly Kitching sadly passed away, but Michael Danby was the one who was putting a lot of pressure on the Labor Party. Don't preference the Greens in McNamara, etc. So I'm trying to say, like there are still some people. It's a very
He ain't
small kind
there
of.
anymore. He's not there
Look, I agree
anymore.
with you. It's
The
a very
problem,
it's a very small thing. But
the problem,
look, I'm
yeah.
somebody. If you guys would probably think that of all the lefties, at least my views are much more sound on migration, on anti-Semitism.
I agree.
You're not in power, mate. You're not in
What
power.
do you
That's
say,
the
Bill?
problem. And the problem is the party's been taken over. It's like the Liberals. I'm not in the
I
Liberals.
agree. It's been
I'm
taken
a
over
Liberal
by
to
bad
trade. So
people.
if you want to
And,
get my vote, you got to come and get it, mate.
and we were
That's what
talking
they're
about
saying.
exactly this before, weren't we, Joel? We were saying to people, join the Liberal Party, make a change from the inside. But when it comes to the polling booth, vote for
Doesn't
the
mean you vote
policies.
Labor. Yeah, yeah. Because the thing is, if you don't pull out, if I can say, and this is how it was put in 2016 when I was a Bernie bro, and I was listening to what was going on then. Obviously, I was a conservative after that, but I remember listening to Jimmy Dore, and he said, Hillary Clinton, if you want my vote, you can come and get it. It's not just a given that you got to actually pitch the policies, and if you don't meet my barrier, my bar of expectations policy wise, then I'm not voting for you. You've got to earn it, and that's the thing. And
Look,
if you're just voting, it's one thing to make a difference within the party, it's another thing to actually vote for them when they don't actually do what you want, because then they're like,
and you're saying they don't.
look. I'm kind of like a sort of Bill Maher type. I come from the left, but I'm very upset with where the left is going at this point. And I think it's overall good for society. You don't want the left to be completely captured by the greenie types, by the anti-Semitic types. You need somebody like me, right? And I'm trying my best to try fight back against it, but it's an uphill battle. I agree.
it's
And look,
only fire though, mate, because I want to fire on the Labor Party, but you're in there still. It's the same with Antic.
I'm not in the party. They wouldn't even
You're
let
still
me
in there.
The funny thing is they would never even let me in because I'm talking to you guys. Like they hate me, the Labor Party, unfortunately. But like
Mate.
I've still got friends in there like Michael Danby and stuff like that, and I support them trying to be some level of opposition within the party. But I understand it's a very sort of like uphill battle. I agree with you. It's very tough. And look, it might well be the last time I ever vote for the left. I don't know. I have to say I have been really unhappy with it. I made that vote in a very sort of tortured state, and I wasn't happy making that vote. And listen, if it keeps on going the next couple of years like this, I probably would have to say I can no longer be part of the left. It's a sad thing.
You can
What do
be
they
in part of
have
your
to
left.
do?
You're
What do
loyal
they
to your
have to
values,
do
though.
to lose your vote?
Yeah, mate, but you're loyal to your values.
happy
Look at
with
Trump's
party.
team. Trump
What'd
was
you
a
say,
Democrat. I said Trump was a Democrat. He has Tulsi Gabbard. He has
I don't like
RFK.
Trump, though,
He's
I
all these
don't like
Democrats.
Trump.
Yeah,
Probably
but hang on
Joel's
a
making
sec.
a point.
Hang on a sec. He came in with a slew of former Democrats, and because they left and went to the Republicans, they actually got things done. They got elected, and they brought all the disgruntled Democrats across, including Joe Rogan. And that's why we have like Elon Musk and all these guys that shouldn't be there. They're now on the Republican side. But if you don't move, nothing changes, mate.
I mean,
It's
I
like,
get you, but I have to say, like, I'm somebody who I looked at Trump. I really don't like what he's done on Ukraine. I really don't like what he's
It
done.
doesn't matter. You don't have to vote Trump. We're not asking you to vote Trump.
I know. I'm just saying, like, that's probably the one area where, like, I really still have a division when it comes to the right wing. It's the Trump stuff. I don't like the
Forget the Trump stuff.
I
We're
know,
in
I'm just giving you-
Australia.
Yeah.
I just cannot for the life of me understand. I can understand the idea of wanting to change things, and we've said this, we've litigated it, but I just feel like, how can you go in a polling booth and put a one next to the group that you've been criticizing for the last 3 years for getting almost everything wrong? And even the things that you claim the other side's going to be bad on, they're still going to be better than them. And bottom
Look,
line is, when
it-
you look at your what you believe in, I think you actually agree with One Nation more than both parties.
I wouldn't agree with that.
I know you
think
don't want to
Pauline
say
is-
it. I know you don't want to admit it. I know you don't want to admit it because to
I think
you it's a
Pauline
dirty
is
word.
an idiot. I don't know. Like, okay, tell me, what do you think is good about Pauline? I don't think Pauline's a good person.
No, I'm talking about policies.
Oh.
You're talking about immigration. You're talking what's stop making it about the people. Stop making it tribal. Stop making it about the Liberal, like the Labor Party. I'm an old Labor. What does that even mean? Like, you know what? I get the old Labor people that, like I have family that are old old generation Labor.
Yeah.
They don't even know the policy. When I talk to them and they say they just vote Labor because they've always voted Labor. They're workers' rights. They were workers themselves. They were in the unions or whatever, and now they just vote out of habit. They don't even know. And then when I talk to them about some of the woke stuff, it's shit they would never support in a million years. But even when I tell them, they're still tribal about it. You're somebody that's a political animal. It consumes you all day. You're involved in it. How can you?
Yes.
How can you go in there?
I want to try change. I want to try change it from within, Avi. I want them to
But
say.
how?
Okay,
I get that. How does that
Look,
change it?
Denmark,
No.
for example, right?
Explain to me how.
In Denmark, the Labour Party were the ones who stopped migration. That's what Labour in Australia needs to do if they want to still be in power.
Explain to me how. Explain to me how going in today and voting Labor ensures that you're changing it from within. How?
I'm going to try my best over the next year or so to advocate that other people on the left that they will try change the position. They have to move away from work.
And why did you fail the last 3? You've been trying your hardest the last 3 years. You failed. You gave them a chance.
If I'm wrong, I'll accept it. If I'm wrong, I'll accept it. I'm telling you right now, I voted for them, but I'm not happy with them, and I want them to change their policies. I think if I was voting One Nation, they wouldn't give a fuck about what I say, right? They'll just write me.
But they wouldn't know. But they wouldn't know. That's the beauty about the polling booth. That is the beauty about the polling booth. You can.
I think you're wasting your time, Avi. You are wasting your time because I'm reading the comments. Everyone's like, "You're not going to change this, guys. This soy boy's."
No, I'm just angry, Drew. Drew, on that note,
Drew is more worried. Drew, you're more worried about your public image and what people will think of you than actually caring about the country. I think that's what it comes down to. Because I'm someone who would vote Liberal. I would vote Liberal most of my life. I would vote Liberal most of my life. But since the last few years, I cannot stand them, and I don't vote for them. And I do things to oppose them, and I say things against them. And I'm hardcore. I could say rusted on Liberal from my youth, but I've sensed that they don't deserve my vote, and that's how we have to be. I think that's how Australians have to be to change the country.
I have to explain to you guys. You guys are fully right wing. I'm not fully right wing. I'm more of a centrist,
no. It's
right?
not about being fully right wing.
I mean, you guys are pretty rusted on with the right, aren't you?
Drew, can I just say 10% of Bernie Sanders voters voted for Trump in 2016, all right? It's just a matter of time before you come to our side.
It's as you grow up and life hits you. When life smacks you in the face, when you have a couple of kids, you'll realize, brother, we appreciate you, though. I do appreciate you, and credit where credit is due. Whenever I ask you on, you always come on. It is so hard to get people on the other side on.
Yeah. I'm giving you, you guys have had only really right-wing guests. I'm trying to give you an example of somebody who's on the other side and still has much more moderate views than the majority
I appreciate it. And I actually do think your views are mostly moderate. I just think you're voting in the wrong place and you're empowering the wrong people. On that note, mate.
All right. We'll call it in, but we'll do a debate. We'll do a debate in the weeks ahead.
You've already lost.
Okay. Anyway, guys.